Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the medium in the middle. This podcast is going to walk you through my journey into mediumship and how I came to realize that I could communicate with souls that have passed over. My adventure started just over a year ago when unusual situations started happening to me. It wasn't until I really started to pay attention to them that it all started to come together. I wrote down everything that I was experiencing this past year in a little black book, and this podcast is going to be a recap of all of those memories leading up to where I am today in my mediumship journey. I will be releasing new episodes every Tuesday, and I recommend listening to the podcast in order, starting with episode 1, as my story will unfold more week by week. If you would like to stay connected with me, follow me on Instagram at mediuminthemiddle. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 44. My name is Steph. I'm your host, and I'm excited that you are tuning in. I'm excited for this week's episode because I feel like it's very relatable, and I feel that I get a lot of DMs about this, like, what do the signs mean? I can't see anything. So-and-so hasn't communicated with me since they've passed. My mom stopped sending me messages, and I feel like they're there. We just have a hard time figuring out they're there and figuring out the messages and noticing them because it's hard to notice things sometimes. So I have a story for you today, and I have a little pre-story before the story. So we just got some stories today, and this one's like super recent. It literally happened today. And my cousin was like, podcast episode. And I was like, yeah, like I'm just gonna skip everything else that I had planned and just say this one. So if you don't know, I do offer distance Reiki and Akashic Record readings online. You can book an appointment with me on my website, themediuminthemiddle.com. And also Reiki Level 1 will be coming. If you would like to book that, just pay attention on my Instagram because I will be posting everything on there. I'm running 2 trainings. The dates for those trainings will be September 12th and 13th will be the first date, and then September 26th and 27th will be the second date for Reiki Level 1 online. So it can be done anywhere in the world, but I am on Mountain Time. So depending on where you are, sometimes the time zones might not line up. And then if those fill up, I do have a backup date ready to go. I just want to see what people are wanting, and we'll see how that goes. So keep an eye on my Instagram. And for Instagram and Facebook, it's Medium in the Middle. You can find me on there as well. If you are using iTunes, I would love a rating and a review. It really helps me out in the podcast world. It helps people find the podcast, and I would really appreciate it if you just scroll down to the bottom and leave a quick 5-star rating and a little review. I would really appreciate it. So thank you so much, and I love reading them. So as in the beginning of all episodes, I'm going to pull a card from the Colette Baron Reid Enchanted Map deck. And it's funny because I teach a restorative yoga class every week, and I used to bring the cards to class, and during Shavasana, I'd offer everyone a card, and then when they woke up, they could read it. And I stopped doing it when the classes got too big because when 22 people want to read the description, it takes a really long time. So I stopped doing it, and then recently, due to COVID and summertime, my classes have only been like 3 or 4 people. So for my last class, I was like, oh, I'm going to bring my deck of cards, like, duh. And if it's only 4 people, like, they can read easily. And of course, I went to class, and class was full. So we're still at half capacity because of COVID, but I wasn't expecting class to be busy because it hasn't been busy since the studios opened back again. So there's a reason why I brought my cards last night. There was even some people that needed 2 cards, and I was like, ooh, 2 for you. So I announced in class, like, if you got 2, that was not a mistake. So I'm going to pull a card for us here today. Okay, so for this week, I pulled card number 2, the Gentle Gardener. Be your own person. Be a conscious creator. The Gentle Gardener is visiting you at this moment in your life to remind you that your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs create the reality of your experience. She is the embodiment of the energy within you that is sent out into the field of co-creation and ensures that all that you are is reflected in the world of form. Are you aware of your thoughts? What is their quality? Believe in limitless possibility and you will see miracles unfold. The gentle gardener guarantees the integrity of everything you send out into the world. Stay positive and expect a wondrous return. Your garden is abundant with beauty. Ooh, I haven't pulled this card before. I like this card. Card number 2, the gentle gardener. So I hope that card resonated with you. If you were meant to hear it today, or if you weren't, just let it go. That's totally fine. And thank you to everyone who sends me a DM letting me know if it sits with you or not. I like to hear from the listeners. Okay, so let's jump into this week's story. So before the story, I have a little mini story because I'm just going to give you a real life update instead of being years behind, because some stuff happened today that was super cool. So I have a friend in Bermuda, and we connected a few years ago at my yoga teacher training, and we've just stayed in contact. So when I was practicing distance Reiki, I practiced on her. When I was doing Akashic Records, I practiced on her. So now I've treated her a few times. So the story starts back when I was doing my practice distance Reiki. So at the time, I would have them lay down. We were just doing it over Instagram, and then I would send voice notes. So I'm going to play the voice note for you of what I sent.
And this might be completely out of left field, but I feel like I need to say it. I feel like, I'm not sure if you are or if you're planning to be pregnant again, but I'm really getting a sense of like a baby girl. So I'm not sure if that's you or someone else, but it feels like something new, and it feels like a new pregnancy, which could be connected to the nauseousness. Again, if that doesn't relate to you, completely disregard it. But it just feels like a sense of something new.
So to that, she responded, "Oh my God, baby girl, I don't know." And she said, "I don't know if someone's close to me is pregnant, but I'll keep that in mind." So then we're on Zoom again weeks later, and she comes on and she says, "Steph, I have something to tell you." And she's smiling. And I was like, "You're pregnant." She's like, "How did you know?" And I was like, "Are you? Just confirm before we talk about this." And she was like, "Yes." She's like, "You told me before I even knew." And I was like, "Oh gosh." I was like, "Thank God I was right." Because at the time I was like, this chick's pregnant. And I wasn't going to like tell you that because I didn't know if you knew yet. And she was like, "How did you know?" And it was like really funny. So anyways, we were doing Reiki again. And during Reiki, I really like doing pregnant women because I can Reiki the baby and communicate with the baby. So the baby started talking and she was saying like a bunch of stuff. And I just got a message from my friend today, so I just wanted to share that. During the Reiki, the little baby in her belly, who we were calling a girl, but we don't know is a girl, she was talking about like a yellow piece of paper, or like she was showing me like something yellow. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but she keeps showing me something yellow and it looks like a yellow piece of paper or like a yellow square. I don't know if this is like a Post-it note. Like, I don't know, but she's showing me something yellow. And at the time she couldn't place it. She's like, I have no idea what's yellow. Like, I don't know if we have a blanket, like what? And I was like, okay, like it's square. Like, that's all I know. Like, it looks like paper or like something. So today I get a message from her. And she said, "Hey, I think I figured out what the something yellow was that the baby was showing you." She said, "When I was vision boarding way back, I attached a yellow piece of paper to it with the boy and girl's names. I'm wondering if that is what she was showing you. Her full name is written on that yellow piece of paper along with her brother's. So many years ago, she was having trouble getting pregnant, so she made this vision board, and I guess she wrote both of their names. So now the baby girl in her belly is talking about the piece of paper that had her name on it. I thought that was so cool." And she's like, it only makes sense, and that now that I see it, it comes to mind. And I was like, "Oh, that's so nice, little cutie." So yeah, I love doing Reiki to pregnant women because the baby can talk and tell you things. And I think I did an episode early on about that when I accidentally again told someone that she was having a girl. But that's my little pre-story to the story. So then we'll go into today's story. So as you know, I've been doing a practice mediumship course with Danielle Sarank, the Squamish medium. It's called The Initiation, and it's a 6-week mediumship development course. So I will do a whole podcast episode about this because I want to talk about my experience and I want to talk about everything that I learned. But each week in the course, we have 2 practice readings. So you get paired with 2 different people, and then you have to find time during the week to do practice mediumship with them. And because we're all practicing and because we don't need messages, I just write down anything and everything they tell me, because then I go check with my mom or my dad if I'm not sure who's coming up. And a few times, like last week, this lady came up and I didn't know anything, but I wrote down everything that she told me. And then when I went to go ask my mom, it was actually my mom's grandma who passed away before I was even born. So that was super cool, because if I didn't just trust the information that was coming through, I would have completely missed out on a message, which was super cool. So a lot of the times, if I'm not sure on the information that's coming through, I will ask my mom, my dad, my cousins. My cousin answers quicker than my dad, so I usually ask her. So I texted my cousin earlier today and I said, hey, what's grandma's real name? Because we called her a different name that wasn't her name. And when she came through in the practice reading that I had this morning, she told me that her name was Marie. And I was like, oh, like that might be my grandma's real name. So I'm just going to write that down and double check. So I said, hey, like cousin, what's grandma's real name? And she said, I'll check with my mom. So she said, Marie Catherine. And I was like, oh, okay. I just had a practice reading for my mediumship group and grandma came through, but she said her name was Marie. And I said to the woman, I think that's her real name. And then she's like, oh, that's weird that she would use that name. And I was like, yeah, it is weird, but who knows with spirit. And then she said, did she say anything else? So then I told her everything else that she was saying. And I was like, yeah, she talked about the house. She talked about the curtains in the house. She talked about wearing an apron. She was wearing a short sleeve dress shirt that buttoned up. She was very happy. And then my cousin was just like, oh, what else did she say? And then I was telling her everything that she was saying. And she's like, oh, cool, that's accurate. And I was like, yeah. And then at the end, she asked me if I had any questions for grandma. But I really didn't, because we've been practicing so much. She's come through like 4 times now. So I didn't really have any questions to ask for her. And then she said, oh, that's amazing. She's like, I don't think I'd have any questions either. And I was like, yeah, it's hard to think of questions. Last time she was talking about the East Coast, but Dad said they were planning a vacation there and that was canceled. So maybe that's why she was talking about the East Coast. And then I asked about you and the kids, but she said the same thing that she said the first time, because this was my cousin that was asking about the kids. And I was like, oh, and Papa came through too, and he talked about doing things blind, and I was laughing. And then she was like, oh yeah, Grandma's very consistent. She's like, my mom gets sad that she hasn't had an experience with her. I dreamt about her a little while ago, though. And I was like, oh, like my aunt, like she hasn't had anything, like a dream, a sign, nothing. And then she said nothing she can recognize anyways. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe next time Grandma comes through, like I'll ask her, like, why isn't she sending any signs to her daughter? I said she's around for sure, because last time she came through, she talked about living beside a church and she was giving all these details. And then my cousin said, oh, she would love that. I was like, what else? So then, because I realized that I hadn't told my cousin all this stuff, and it's been like 4 readings now where Grandma and Grandpa have come through, and these are her grandma and grandpa as well, I like opened up my book and I said, okay, let me check my notes, because I write down everything they tell me, because if anything doesn't make sense, I always want to go back and double check for them and let them know, hey, like this does make sense. I just didn't know my grandma's real name was Marie. So I was like, okay, she was talking about having a cross in her house and that religion was important to her, but she was silent about it. And then I was like, and Grandpa came and he was happy and funny, lots of love. She got the letter P, so I thought that was for our last name. She got the number 78, and that was when she passed away. He was a patient man that loved his wife. So then I was just listing her off all this information that was written in my little book from all my practice sessions. So this is information that people have told me. And she was like, yeah, Grandma was 78 when she died. And I was like, yeah, so I thought that was really cool. So then this is where it gets interesting. So I said, oh yeah, I kept forgetting to ask you. In 2 different readings, an orange cat came up. Does that make any sense to you? So then my cousin said there might be an orange cat living in their house now. So it's super interesting. So where my family lives, there's a church. Right beside it is my grandma's house. Then there's their rental house. Then beside that is my aunt's house. And then besides that is my dad's house. So like in 5 houses, there are 3 of them. So now someone else lives in our grandma's house. But I didn't know that an orange cat lived there, because twice in my readings, she mentioned an orange cat. And I have no idea about this orange cat. We don't have an orange cat. I don't think my cousin owns an orange cat. So anyway, so then my cousin texted her mom and she said, oh yeah, that's the cat. My dad is really annoyed because it comes over to their house a lot. So it must walk outside, go 2 doors over, and come to my cousin's house. And then I said, it didn't click in yet. So then I answered her and I'm like, oh yeah, and grandma said she was a smoker. Ha ha ha. So then I'm like, oh my God, that's the sign for your mom. The orange cat is grandma visiting. I'm like, it came up in 2 different readings with 2 different people in my practice sessions. And I told them both that I didn't have a cat and there wasn't a cat in their house. And they both said an orange cat. So then she wrote, the orange cat walked by when I was visiting my mom the other day. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's our auntie's sign. Like, that's the sign that grandma is around. Like, that orange cat is literally coming to her house to visit her. And no wonder I was told twice. I was like, you crazy people, there's no orange cat. This message is actually for your mom. Like, it's for my auntie. And then she was like, oh wow, that's so crazy that I just said that she doesn't recognize the sign. And now we're talking about this sign that's actually for her. So then we were texting like really fast back and forth. So our conversation got a little backed up. And she said, I just asked my mom if she had any questions for grandma. And she said, yeah, how come she doesn't talk to me? And then I was like, well, now she does. And now she knows. So then my cousin goes, also podcast idea. And I was like, oh my God, yes. I'm like, this is going to be what I record today. So then a few text messages later, she says, I was like, what did your mom say when you told her about the cat and that it's grandma and that she's coming over to visit? So she wrote, my dad is now trying to catch this cat. And I told him he can't catch the cat. But she said that he would tell him that the cat is grandma visiting. We had a good laugh, and it was really cool that messages that come through for me in readings can be helpful for other people and kind of vice versa. So I literally thought nothing about this orange cat message, but I wrote it down twice in my little book. And even in my second practice reading, I said to the girl, I was like, okay, I got to find out about this cat because you're the second person to ask me. And my cousin must know about it because I thought maybe it was one of her cats, but she doesn't have an orange cat. And now it turns out that the orange cat is living in the house that my grandma used to live in, next door to my auntie, and the cat escapes the house and tries to visit her. And here she is sitting the whole time saying, my mom doesn't send me any messages. Well, auntie, now you know. Grandma's visiting you via cat form while you're trying to chase this cat off your lawn. It's just your mom popping in to say hi. So I hope that can kind of resonate with you. And sometimes the signs aren't that obvious. It's not like dad send me a feather and then a feather falls from the sky. Sometimes it's a little more harder to decipher, but the signs are there and spirit is trying to communicate with us. So don't forget that your loved ones don't go anywhere. They still see your life. They're still a part of it, and they'll still try their best to communicate with you. So just be open to anything and everything because you never know what it's going to be. You never know what a sign's going to look like. You never know when a cat is going to walk into your front lawn and be a visit from your mother. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this little story of what happened to me today. And I will add in one quick other story. So I was doing my practice reading today, so it was my turn. And for some reason during my practice reading, I was wearing a robe. So I woke up in the morning and I had a shower, but I didn't want to put a sweater on. I wanted to wear a robe. And I was like, this is weird. So I put on the robe and I was like, I really shouldn't be wearing a robe. Like, I'm going on a Zoom call and, be professional, look nice. But for some reason I kept this robe on. And one of the spirits that came through for her, I was like, okay, she's showing me like she's constantly wearing a robe. And I'm like closing my robe and then like crossing my hands. And I motioned it with the robe that I was wearing. And she said, yep, like that's her. She used to always wear a robe. I remember her always in a robe. And I was like, that's so funny that at the beginning of this, we were like readings in robes, like making a joke. Because I said, I'm sorry I'm in a robe. I don't know why. And then it's just another way that spirit is connecting and communicating and letting us know that they're around. So I still could have said the message without wearing the robe, but it was just because we had talked about it earlier and we were calling it readings and robes. It was really cool, and it's just another little sprinkle of they're smart. There is divine knowledge. Things are happening without us knowing. And yeah, those are my stories for today. So like 3 stories that are all just put together to make what my day was. This is what happened to me today. The life of a developing medium. All these things, you just got to pay attention and then put them together and it all makes sense. So thank you for listening. Thank you for coming back to the podcast. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I release new episodes every Tuesday. Again, if you want to book a session with me, Akashic Records, or Distance Reiki, you can do so on the website, themediuminthemiddle.com, themediuminthemiddle.com. I will also leave links to everything below. And I will see you all next week. Have a great week. Bye.